Hello, hello! Welcome to the stream. David Snowbeck here from Snowbeck Games. How is everybody doing? Who is out there? Unless you say something in comments, I don't know who is watching. I just have a little eyeball icon with a number next to it, and you get a sweet character on the overlay as well. This overlay is a Godot game that we built on stream like over a year ago. Yeah, come get a little character. Ooh, hello! Matthew Grigajtis? I'm sorry. If that's your real last name, I have butchered it. Grigajtis? Anyway, welcome to the stream. Thank you for coming. What else do I always say? How are your game projects going? You guys playing anything cool? Oh, thanks for letting me know you are definitely not a Russian spy. That's good to know. Yeah. I'm real excited for this stream, to be honest. We have been working for many weeks, I think like 8 on-stream weeks, and I, of course, was working on it before then, on trying to get WebXR working in Godot 4, and we are so close. We are just really close. And, yeah, as people trickle in... Ooh, my character's stuck up there. Let me get myself unstuck. As people trickle in, I mean, feel free to let me know what you guys are doing, how your projects are. I always love to hear about that. By me, not much has been going on project-wise. I've been basically, like, all my non-work time has been on WebXR, but it has turned to a winter wonderland here. I would turn the webcam, except I'd worry about breaking something, to show you that it is snowing very heavily outside where I am in the world. Anyway, I guess I'll start giving an overview of the project. So WebXR is a technology that lets a web page provide a VR or AR app. It's a very easy way to distribute VR games since most of the VR app stores are relatively closed. Where is that? I am in Wisconsin, the USA. And yeah, lately it has not been snowing this much this early in the year. Like, global warming has been pushing winter like further and further down. But in November we get some snow. We used to always get snow in November, but yeah, different world. So it's relatively hard to get into like the Quest store. And even if you are, in the Quest store or have a downloadable game on PC or whatever, it's always easier to get people to play your games, especially if they're like little indie games or little experimental things or game jam games. If you can just point people to a link and they go play it. I know from experience doing game jams that if you have an HTML5 version of your game, way more people are going to play it. So this is kind of like you can point to an HTML5 version of a VR game. There's also some interesting use cases for AR. The example people always give is you're on like a furniture website and you see a table you might like, and so you press the like view in my room button and get to see how it looks in your house. Hey, Micah, welcome to the stream. I haven't been looking at our characters. We got 2 orcs going. Matthew and Micah are both rocking some orcs. And I've got the sailor hat and what I assume is a beard. I think that's a beard, or like a really weird chest plate. Anyway, we're looking good today. How's it going, Micah? I have not had like any time lately to look at the distraction timer thing. I keep meaning to go check it out and check out that design thing that you'd got all set up, which looks really cool, by the way. But I've just been so swamped. So anyway, we have been working for several weeks. Last week we were working on converting converting to using the WebXR layers spec, which allows us to render directly to the hardware device, whereas previously we were rendering to a render target and then copying the render target to the device. This should be faster, hopefully. Before that, we were working on trying to get input working in smartphone AR. I didn't see this comment before where Matthew says, that's Canada. We're close enough to Canada. But we were trying to get, because smartphones have weird input. I mean, you're touching the screen, but WebXR, of course, doesn't report that to you in saying things like X and Y pixels. You have to capture some weird events, and it represents the place you touched on the screen as a joystick, actually, and you have to take the position of that joystick and like multiply it against the screen dimensions, and that's how you get the pixel values. And it's all sort of strange, but that is all working. Like the WebXR layers stuff, I think we basically had it working at the end of last stream, but there were some issues actually running it on my smartphone. I figured that out. The smartphone input events are all working. I did some massive refactoring to the WebXR support. Some stuff that I've wanted to do for literal years, but haven't got a chance to until just now. And I'll walk you guys through that a little bit. Micah says, I haven't worked on either. School life has been very hectic. Yeah, I feel you, man. That's exactly where I am at. Except not school, because I'm not in school. But, you know, life and work have been just crazy lately. I've been trying so hard to stay on top of everything, and I've been just barely not quite doing it. If you know what that's like. Barely not quite staying on top of everything. Let me go take a look at this code and give you guys some of the highlights. I've been like staying up way too late, like every night this week, trying to get this done because it is just so close. It is so cool to be able to see the end in sight. I mean, there's still a lot of things to do, but nothing like we were dealing with before where we were like making these big changes in the OpenGL renderer or any of that stuff. I do think there's one more bug that we have to deal with that will involve us touching the renderer, but I think it's going to be easy. I think I know how to do it already. So, the way input and trackers works in Godot 4 is totally different than Godot 3. In Godot 3, we just got like IDs that they're just magic numbers that you needed to know, like this magic number was the trigger and this magic number was, you know, whatever. In Godot 4, it's a totally different system where you get to put names on everything. So I went through and like Godot 4ized the way the input is reported. So, you know, we're now able to report both poses, the aim and grip pose, for each of the controllers. In Godot 3, we could only report one. We reported the aim because that's the most useful. That's what most people actually need. Actually, I made a big table of names here. So, like, it will know that the different axes are touchpad X, touchpad Y, thumbstick X, thumbstick Y, standard buttons. That is for like a controller that actually says it follows the standard XR mapping. It can give you anything if you have some weird device, and so then we also have these big unknown names things. But that's all looking good. There's a thing that has driven me crazy in this sense forever, which is the way we were passing data from JavaScript to C++, was that usually we were allocating like big arrays on the JavaScript size and then on the JavaScript side, and then passing the pointer back to C++. And it was a big ugly mess. And I didn't like the idea that every single frame we were allocating and then deallocating all these buffers. And I'm not even entirely sure why I did it that way. I think it was like a weird accident of history of the evolution of the code. Like now we have this really nice setup where all the JavaScript code lives in this library Godot WebXR.js file. But it wasn't always that way. That was a thing that Fabio had kind of switched to doing in Godot part of the way through when I was working on the WebXR support. And so originally, when I first like wrote most of the code, where's my file? I can type things. I can show you. We had to do it this different way, and I don't remember exactly the syntax, but it was something like you would do em SDK asm or something like that, and then you would put in here just like JavaScript in line with your C++. It's like var I equals, I don't know, some JavaScript things, JavaScript. But we're not doing it that way anymore. So a better way to pass the data from JavaScript to C++ that, like I said, I've wanted to implement for literal years is that we allocate as much as possible the memory in C++ land, ideally not allocating it at all, just like keeping it on the stack, and then passing pointers into JavaScript, and then it just writes the data into the pointers. And I was able to like refactor all of the code in here to do that, and it's just so much nicer. So here's like where we get all of the data for the input source, and we make all these different like buffers and things on the stack, and then we call this one function in JavaScript, and it just stuffs the data in there, and then we can take the data and put it on the trackers and do all the things, and it's so much nicer. Hey Jill, welcome to the stream. Thanks for coming, man. Jill says, I have mixed feeling. I just discovered you were streaming every Friday, but you use a light theme. I I don't know why the light theme is so controversial. So, for whatever reason, like the dark theme is bad on my eyes. I'm prone to migraines. I get like a migraine every 1 to 2 days, and like the solution for me is to make the light around me as even as possible. So my room is really bright, right? So in a really bright room, my screen has to be really bright to match, and then I get fewer migraines. Whereas if I have the dark theme and then there's a bright room with the dark theme, and it's trouble. So I don't know. It's fine, man. It's a personal preference. These light themes. Oh yeah. Thanks, Micah, for jumping in there and and defending me. No, it's cool. It's funny, like the different programmer battles that we have, like Vim versus Emacs and all of those things. Anyway, so I have this big list of just little things that need to be finished to get WebXR fully working in Godot 4. There's like a ton of little things. We probably shouldn't work on the little things on stream because like that will be boring. I don't know, maybe we will. But it's like things like updating all the documentation, which is going to take a long time. And when you make production builds of the web version of Godot, it uses the Clojure compiler, and we now need to teach the Clojure compiler about all of the WebXR layers specs so that it doesn't, what's the word? Not compress. Obfuscate away the names, and so then it like doesn't work. So like there's a ton of things that's still like some hours of work, but like all the big problems are solved, but there's still like 2 big bugs. And I think we'll probably work on those on stream because it's the most exciting, I think. So the first bug, let me show you. Or actually, let me look at the list. Let me make sure that this is the bug I want to do. Sorry, I'm going to do some things off screen for a moment. WebXR and Godot 4 notes. I could actually pull this on screen. I just don't like opening my Google Docs on stream because then you guys get to see all of my secret documents. Yeah, so these are the 2 big bugs. One is on smartphone AR. All of the 2D is inverted. So it's not exactly upside down. Upside down would be rotating 180 degrees. It's just like flipped, like top to bottom. And I can show you. The other big bug is that whenever we lose tracking in smartphone AR, everything crashes and goes crazy. Like we lose tracking and then regain tracking and then everything falls apart. And I think I know what's going on here. But let's do this one first. Let's do the 2D being flipped. So this is the one thing I said we're going to have to touch the renderer again. But it should be easy. So let me show you how this works. Let me get... maybe we don't even need that, but I'll get my phone connected and I'll show you guys on my phone screen the inverted textures. Of course, I prepared everything but my phone. There's so much stuff I have to do to get ready for a stream, by the way. I have like this huge checklist. Yeah, I don't think we actually need to connect to the debugger. I'm just so used to doing it. I'll do it anyway. We can... So here's my beautiful cube, and I enter AR, and those buttons, which I'm not sure what you guys are seeing. Hang on, let me get OBS up so I can kind of see it. The buttons, which you'll see towards the middle, can you see them? They're real tiny, real tiny. The text is inverted, it's upside down. And the touches actually work. If I touch where the test button is supposed to be, here, let me switch out of here. We will go to webcam only. So there's a test button that's up at the top, and if I press where it's supposed to be down at the bottom, beep, come on, it will actually activate it, and we get our little alert. So what I think we need to do is we need to go into the rasterizer canvas GLES3 class, and we need to have it, ooh, I'm still on showing only me. We need to make it invert the Y whenever we are rendering to a render target that has an overridden color texture. And I think that should fix it. Let's give it a shot. Hey, Fallen Ursus, cześć! Welcome to the stream! Oh, I missed a whole bunch of things. Single light bulb in my head, so I assume a bit of time seems very bright room light. Themes make more adequate. Yeah, no worries, Jill. I know it was a joke. All right, let's move on. Let's solve some problems here. So we need to go to rasterizer, canvas, GLES3. Clayjohn told me a good place to do this, and I tested it previously. But what I was trying to do at the time was this whole problem stems from the fact that in the OpenGL renderer we render upside down, and I think if my understanding is correct, we're doing that because Vulkan renders that way. So it's right side up for Vulkan, but it's upside down for OpenGL, and so we're doing it to be consistent with Vulkan. But what it means is at the last moment we have to flip the texture back over. And the problem is we are rendering now directly to the device, directly to the hardware texture, as opposed to rendering to a render buffer and then copying it, because it's during that copy that Godot normally flips it. So then when we are rendering directly to the device, we need to switch things up and tell Godot, hey, don't render upside down. Let's render right side up. So what I was trying to do before was to just make Godot render right side up all the time, which would be nice for other reasons too. Clayjohn was telling me he wants to, when possible, actually have it render directly to the screen on desktop as well, not just for this weird XR stuff that we're doing. But I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't make everything work with everything flipped over. There's just too many little details. That's for someone who knows rendering much better than me, like Clayjohn or Bastian. So we are looking for, I believe it's called camera something. Yeah, I thought it was camera something. Transform. No, not canvas transform. At least I don't think so. I don't think I want to flip the canvas transform. I may need to dig back into my messages to figure out where this was, or look at like old Git branches. Maybe we'll look at old Git branches. So I think when I was working on possibly this one, let's look at the Git log here. Nope, that doesn't look right. No. I know I kept it. I keep everything. I copy a lot of code, like pre-existing code, from myself. I primarily plagiarize myself. Yeah, I'm not sure where I put that. Okay, let me go. I'm just gonna quick take a peek into say I could take a peek into Rocket Chat. It's gonna mess up my whole stream setup if I do it over there. I'm gonna do it on my phone. This is very interesting streaming, watching me search something on my phone. Or we could keep looking in the code again. I know it's not. I know it's got to be there. Okay, let's look in the code. Let's look in the code. We start. Where's our entry point here? So here's lights. Render canvas items. Or maybe it was in rasterizer GLES3. Maybe it was here. I swear it was called like camera transform. Yeah, when in doubt, just read the whole thing. No, I need rasterizer canvas GLES3. Canvas transform inverse. State buffer, normal transform, scene transform. Okay, so looking at this, it looks like it is centering the scene in the middle of the camera. And this actually seems like a good thing to invert. And I think we can do it. I think we can do it just by. So here, this is taking the scene. This translate local is just moving it from. I guess this. Let's get a thing I can draw on here really quick. Sketchpad. Yeah. Okay. Allow. We're good. Come on. Let me in there. So, you know, the screen is up here, and if we didn't move it up, the scene would actually be down here, I think, or possibly the other way, maybe like this. And then we're just moving it to be centered, and then it looks like, where's the scale? The scale, I'm actually not entirely sure what this is doing. I think it's part of the same thing, though. 2 divided by width. Okay, yeah, this is the same thing. Okay, so it's taking the actual width, and then it's normalizing it on, we would normally have, undo a bunch. We would normally have the center of the screen being 0, 0, and this being -1, -1, and this being 1, 1. So it's taking our scene, moving it to the middle, shrinking it down, and I think this would be a good place to flip everything over. So let's just say that we are going to scale by -2 divided by the height, and give that a try. What we really want to do is only do that conditionally. I'm like 90% sure we have access to the render target here. Let's go back to the top of the function. Yes, so we do have the render target. And assuming we aren't rendering to, like, I don't know, something weird that's going to be copied then to the real render target, I think we should be able to use this to check if the color texture has been overridden, which it would be an XR, and that would allow us to solve our problem. So let me compile this. Yeah, we'll compile it to HTML5. And we will get ready a little bit in advance. I need to have a terminal open to export this really quickly. Beta 5, headless, export, debug, web. All right. So as soon as it's done compiling, I will export it, and I can open it up on my phone, and we can see if it works. Anybody playing anything cool lately? I just have not been playing any games like this past week or two. What was I playing last? Oh, my pa came to visit last weekend, and my pa's really into VR, which I know I've mentioned before. My pa, who is, you know, in his 70s, his early 70s, so young 70s. Is super into VR, which is really cool given that he's never been into video games previously, but somehow like VR, I think the physicality of it resonates with him. And during the pandemic, it was really awesome being able to get together virtually, like we'd play mini golf and ping pong and all these things without being able to see each other in real life. The New Monkey Island. How is that? How is the New Monkey Island? Hey, Sergio! Welcome to the stream. You came at the perfect one. I'm about to be messing around with smartphone AR, which I know is something you're interested in. Although I think you told me you stopped using WebXR and switched to using like ARKit or something like that, which is fine. I mean, there's a lot of things missing from WebXR's smartphone AR support, but we will try and fix that. We'll try and make it be different in Godot 4. Right now, we're just trying to make it work at all. But anyway, let me get my phone going, and we can check out if the change we did has the desired effect. And I don't have my screen copy stuff set up. Ooh, hey Luciano! I'm not going to try to say your last name. That's awesome that you're using WebXR. Are you using WebXR in Godot? Or just WebXR in general with like 3JS or something? The Case of the Golden Idol. That sounds cool, Jill. I have not heard of that one, but that sounds like a Monkey Islandish style game just from the title. Oh, cool. So I imagine using Godot 3, since, you know, we're here today trying to make it work with Godot 4, which it's, you weren't here earlier, or maybe you were, but you were silent. It is so close, Luciano. We are really, really close. Let me refresh. I should get screen copy set up so you guys can see my actual screen, but for now we'll deal with me just holding the phone up to the camera. All right, so I'm going to enter AR mode here with our newly compiled. Ooh, and nothing good is happening. All right. Well, let's get the debugger then. I don't see any errors. Let's try again. Oh, okay, that time it worked. Everything's still upside down. So the code change we tried did not work because the web is so finicky. I'm just going to try reloading the page. It could be cached. I could still be running an older version. Give it a shot. Where is there? And everything's still upside down. Sergio tried ARCore, didn't work, and ended up using WebXR and Progressive Web App. Cool. WebXR with a PWA in Godot or just on its own, like in JavaScript? And Jill says, it's a bit like Return of the Obra Dinn, same vibe. That sounds cool. Yeah. WebSockets are okay, depending on the game, like how fast-paced and all that kind of stuff. And like what kind of server requirements you have. You can also use WebRTC, which I use for a lot of my stuff. The downside there is you can get more performance and you can have lower requirements of your servers because it's a peer-to-peer, but it's also a lot harder to implement for the developer. So it's kind of like a trade-off. Do I want the thing that's easy for me to implement, or do I want the thing that's going to potentially provide better, like long-term, you know, server cost and performance of your game and that sort of thing? Oh, cool. So Sergio, you're actually building in Godot 3. That is awesome. That is really great to hear. Wow. Okay. Back to solving this problem. I'm flabbergasted that what we tried didn't work. That should have worked. Where was the code? Where did we mess with this? Let me look in git diff. So we are scaling. Inverting the y-axis should have done it. Should have done it. You know, I've been hitting this thing lately as I've been working on this, where like sometimes I feel like I'm exporting too quickly, or the export is just like not picking up the changes that I just made. So let's try something again real quick here. Screen transform. And I'm just going to make an arbitrary code change. And I'm going to try compiling one more time. If this doesn't make it kick in, or you know what I should do? I shouldn't just put that. I should put a print statement. We'll put a printf code change. And then we have to cancel this interrupted and restart it. Okay, so we're going to try that. And then the other thing to try is restarting Nginx, because that also sometimes leads to weird caching issues. Hang on, ps-aux Nginx. And I have too many Nginx's running, but I think it's this one. Process daemon off. I think it's this one. Let's try it. If that doesn't work, I'm just killing random dev instances anyway. Or not kill all, just normal kill. Okay, sudo kill. Let's just kill all the Nginx. It's all dev things. This is just a local stuff on my computer. Nothing production. All right, and then we are going to go over to games for GLES, build web, and we're going to restart Nginx. Okay, and then did it finish compiling yet? It did. We're going to try exporting again, and we'll see what happens. What's going on in chat? Well, Godot 4 is still a work in progress. You can go to the network tab and disable cache. Oh, that's a good idea. Debug by print. So, Gilles, I don't know how much HTML5 stuff you do, but debugging HTML5 is so painful. There isn't like a debugger, at least not that I'm aware of, to let you do like line debugging over your C++ code that has been compiled into WebAssembly. So like in HTML5, I do so much debugging by print. It's maddening. When I'm doing desktop stuff, I have GDB and I can do the line debugger and set breakpoints. But in HTML5, it's tricky, especially if you're dealing with the interaction between the C++ and the JavaScript stuff. It just gets all kind of wacky. Kill roulette, randomly killing processes. Okay, where? So it built. Did I export this already? I got talking too much. I don't remember if I exported already. Let's get this going. We will clear and refresh. And this will either tell us that the thing I did didn't work, because we'll get, you know, my debug print statement, or it will spontaneously work because there was a cache thing going on. So, is our print in here? There, touch. I don't see our print statement. I don't see our print statement. Okay, so I guess that could mean one of two things then. It could mean that code didn't actually get activated, or our code just isn't taking for some reason. What in the heck? Okay, so is there a case where this code doesn't happen? This looks like pretty basic code. I mean, it's doing the lights. This is storing some real basic stuff. I feel like this code should be running. There's no conditions here. We just end up here if this function runs, or we don't hit a return statement on the way. And this is canvas render items. Let's look for different return statements. So that was not in. I think there's no return statements. It just jumped over the whole function. Render canvas items, or was it canvas? Well, what the heck was it called? Screen transform. Yeah, okay, I'll put the cursor right here. Vim key bindings fail in VS Code. Okay, I'll put the cursor right here, and then search for return. And yeah, there's nothing in that method, so can't return early. Let's go over here to build web, make sure everything in the export directory looks okay. We'll try deleting everything, but not this directory here that has the polyfill that we need. Okay, so the directory is empty. Let's inspect the export presets. We are going after this file. Let me verify that the build builds that file, or I guess it might not because it hasn't changed. We'll see if the scans output gives us what we need. Debugging by print is perfect. I debug by print when I have access to a debugger, so what will I do when I don't? Even in CPP, I use printline a lot simply because it nicely prints values when my debugger gets lost. Yeah, sometimes in like weird code with lots of templates, like the debugger can get so confused. I had similar issues once. Godot updated the created binary name, thus my launch configuration wasn't up to date, and I was starting the wrong executable. I've had that problem actually a ton through the Godot 4 development cycle because we have been renaming things a lot. The output executables have changed names a couple of times. Okay, well that didn't tell me what the name was, but we'll just look in the bin directory here and see what we got. I'll go down a little bit so you guys can see this. So, the one we are looking for, I believe is this one. And I think that's the one we're building. Here, we'll just delete everything in here, just to make extra sure. Gone. Bin directory is empty. And let's run the build task. And this will also force scans to rebuild it, so we can see on the terminal here what the file is. It's funny, like, how much of programming just comes down to these, like, dumb little things. I would like if it was always the big interesting stuff, but it's like, why isn't my change appearing in the program? Here, and what I'll do is I will like ls this file. So there we go. That file absolutely exists. So it is the correct thing. It's absolutely brand new. We're going to kill Nginx, restart Nginx. We are going to, I guess, pop back over to our debug output. Let's clear. Let's reload. That's interesting. That's very interesting. What did I do? 403 forbidden. Did I start Nginx in like the wrong place? I bet I did. Oh, did we not export? We did not export. All right, export. There's still nothing here. Okay, so where did you just build this? Oh, you see? You guys see it? I typed the wrong path. All right, so let's remove all these. All right, we'll go back out here. We'll retype the path. There we go. That and off by 1 errors. Let's restart Nginx. And reload. Micah says, whoever said programming is all fun and excitement all the time lied. Here we go. Here's our code change. So that's definitely happening. Oh, and if you can see here, before we've even entered XR mode, the text is inverted. So when I enter XR mode, the text should be right side up, I hope. Come on. Yes, it is. The text is right side up. Let me see if I can get you guys to see these little teeny tiny buttons. You probably can't see them. Yeah, that's unreadable. But it means this change works. All we need to do is do it conditionally. So let's go back to our rasterizer canvas. Let's find this. It was screen transform. And we want to say, okay, do we have the actual render target object, or do we still just have the RID? Did we grab that anywhere? Let's do P2 render target. Let's see what we do with that. Render target get size. So we're actually going to need to grab this object from texture storage. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to our screen transform. Or no, we don't need to grab it from texture storage. There is a getter method. There is a getter method we can use. So, okay, we'll do, let's add, we'll say bool flip y. I think that's what the same variable is called in 3D. We can double check later. And that is going to equal texture storage, what is it? Render target get override color. Okay, so we'll flip y if this does not equal, or no, we can do this differently. We don't have to do an equal thing. We can say, so is valid, right? Yeah, and we'll say, we'll add a comment here. I might go steal the comment I put in 3D, just so I don't have to think about this too hard. Go over to scene, GLS3, flip y. Not here, not here. Okay, if we've overridden the render target's color texture, then don't render upside down. We're probably rendering directly to an XR device. I think that's a pretty clear comment. So let's jump back here. If we've overridden the render target's color texture, then don't render upside down. We'll probably, oh, so then actually, so from the perspective of 2D, it doesn't think of it as upside down. Because I think it's just the way that the 2D shaders are written. They're like the textures are all stored upside down. When we blit a texture, it just automatically writes it the way it was already, which is upside down because they were imported upside down. So we're actually, like, in the perspective of 3D, we are definitely like purposefully flipping things, but from the perspective of 2D, we're just writing them as they are. So what's a good way to name this variable and write this comment? And of course, I have to actually pass in a parameter here too, to render target. Or we can frame this not as flipping. We could frame this as like we're multiplying by a value. So this would be like y direction. And then we would say if it's valid, then we do -1f. And if it's not valid, then we do just 1f. And we multiply or hang on. Or we say this is y scale. And then it's either -2 or +2, and then we get rid of this one. So there's no multiplication, there's just y scale. And actually, I think we added this line too. If we've overridden render tech, then we, yeah, then we upside down doesn't make sense here. Then we need to invert the y-axis so 2D textures appear right side up. Right side? I always forget where the dash goes in right side up. It's got to be like that. Right dash side up. What does Google say? Right side up? Oh, no dash in the way that person wrote it. Less commonly, right dash side up. Can we write it without a dash at all? This is a revolution in language. I'm getting rid of the dash. Okay. All right, we're probably rendering directly to an XR device. Ooh, okay. Luciano says, I don't want to bother you too much, but I have a couple of questions. Yeah, share your questions. Go for it. Yeah, when we hit a compile, when I have to sit there and wait for a compile, I'll check out what you wrote. Or, I mean, you can certainly, at the bottom, there's the URL to my Discord, and so you can always come over there. There's an XR channel where we talk about WebXR and other XR things. You can come over there and ask questions later if that's easier for you. Whatever you like, man. You know, I'm purposely on camera here to like communicate with you guys as well. I could code by myself anytime I want. So no worries. Ask whatever questions. Let me just make sure this is in the right direction. So if it's valid, then we want -2. If it's yeah, okay. Let's compile this. Let's see if the thing that we want to happen is we want, when we're not in XR mode, to have the text appear right side up, and when we enter XR mode to also have it be right side up. Whereas before, when we just flipped it unconditionally, it was we reversed the situation. It was inverted in non-XR mode, and then not inverted in XR mode. I'm also a little worried too. I guess let's take a look at this now. I'm a little worried too that the screen transform might be used for other things. Oh no, it's only used here? Okay. The other things I was worried about was like perhaps it was being used in transforming the input as well. But I guess we'll test the input in a moment. So let's export. And then, oh, I should have gotten rid of that print statement. That's going to be annoying. Or did I get rid of the print statement? I think I did get rid of the print statement. Yeah, I got rid of it. I just don't remember doing it. It was right in the middle of that code. All right, so it's hard to see because they're tiny, but those buttons are now right side up again. We enter AR mode in the right side up. Okay, let me press and see if it activates in the right place. Yes. We did it! We did it, team! I told you that was going to be easy. Man, how many streams have we had where I'm just like banging my head against a problem? Whoa, what is this? I didn't mean to open some random NSA article, where we're just banging our heads against the same problem and nothing makes any sense and nothing works and we're just trying random things. It's nice when it just works. Okay, that's done. That seems fine. Let's commit it. Just peeking at the diff for a second. That all seems good. So invert y-axis when rendering directly to XR device. Okay. Ship it. Hey, Joel Ring, welcome to the stream. Thanks, Luciano. Okay, so we did that. That one's done. The harder problem, because I have an idea about what the problem is, but I don't know for sure. And actually, if we're going to be doing a lot of stuff on my phone, let me just quickly try and figure out how I do the thing where I show you my phone. It's screen copy, like that. Something like that. Screen copy. Screen copy. And then what happens when I run it? Okay, I need to start. Cannot connect to daemon. ADB start. Okay, so we'll start up the ADB daemon. Platform tools. ADB, no. ADB start server. And get a page up. Get the page up. And let's try this. Oh, nah. Okay, we got a weird ADB version mismatch thing again. I hate this ADB version mismatch thing. So, I know we solved this last time we did a lot of mobile stuff. What was the solution? Does anyone remember? Where does this screen copy come from? Snap. Okay. I prefer it not come from Snap. Let's say apt search screen copy. So there is a non-snap version. We'll do sudo snap remove screen copy. Screen copy needs the ADB path that you want to use. Oh, okay. Well, then we definitely need to not use snap because snap like runs in a container. I don't know if it has access to my normal file system, and if it does, like what that looks like. So let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this snap version, and then we will install the non-snap version, and hopefully that will help us. Okay, sudo apt install screen copy. Oops, copy without an O. Screen copy. Do it. All right, so let's look at the. No, I have to restart my terminal because the path has changed. So screen copy help. Okay. And let's see what the command line arguments are to tell it which ADB path we want. That's interesting. Push target. Okay, well, let's just try this version. We'll go make sure to restart the right version of ADB. Start server. Okay, so the daemon has started successfully. Let's try screen copy. Make sure my phone is awake. Oh, seriously? You're still going to do this like 3941 thing? Micah, do you know the argument or environment variable or what I got to do to make it pick a particular version of ADB? Hey, SquarePeg, welcome to the stream. Let's Google this. In the end, I might just end up holding my phone up to the camera. So screen copy ADB version. Hey, SquarePeg. Got a question for you about the web export of Godot. Does it use WASM? Yes, it does. Yeah, all the C++ code is compiled to WASM. There's a bunch of support code that's still in JavaScript, but the vast majority of the engine is WASM. That's for some specific app here. Ooh, ADB equals. All right, let's do it. Okay, so I want the full path, so we'll say export ADB equals bwd/ADB. Now let's run, well, first we have to, of course, restart the server. And then screen copy. It's still giving the same error. It's not using my right ADB. Just make sure, put the, so that's what it's printing out. This is a valid ADB if I run it. Yep. It's not detecting my phone for some reason. Probably because I've been starting and stopping ADB. It needs to re-authenticate me. Or no, it seems to be. It's not asking me for permission. All right. I might just hold up the phone to the camera. I'll figure this out off stream sometime. You may have to use ADB kill server or kill all ADB processes. I mean, it seems to be killing it and restarting it every time. Is it this one? Yeah, that's the one. I want to see the full. Whatever. No, I'm done. I'll hold my phone up to the camera and I'll figure this out off stream so you guys aren't just watching me like debug problems on my desktop the whole time. Anyway, Luciano had a question. Should be possible to have a better integration of WebXR into the native VR class so we can debug using the native VR, push play on Godot, and at the end export for WebXR. So it is possible to write your game so that it works for multiple XR interfaces. I make most of my personal XR projects run native on the Quest, OpenXR, and WebXR. There is a little bit of extra stuff that you have to do because the interfaces are still pretty different. If I forget, Luciano, or you have to be using Godot 3, right? Because that's the only one that's like really working. In Godot 3, one of the major differences between the different XR interfaces is they give different IDs for their buttons and axes and all of that stuff. But in Godot 3.5, we added a new option that will fix at least that problem for you. So this one, I updated the tutorial on my website to include it, but it's just a simple little property. This guy. So XR standard mapping equals true on the XR interface will convert all of the ID numbers that WebXR gives you when you get like a button pressed signal on the AR/VR controller to match the same ones that like OpenXR would give you. So that's helpful. But I mean, there are some differences that you have to deal with. Like I can show you in a project that I have where I'm coding for both OpenXR and, or maybe it wasn't OpenXR. It might have been when I was still using the like Oculus platform, but it's the same general principles. In my toy racer demo, which is available on GitLab, so you can come look at this code, I made like a singleton. Yeah, here it is. This XR singleton, which I guess I even made this before the button mapping thing was, so I did like my own button mapping. Maybe this isn't the best example because it's kind of old. Let me see in my VR voxel game, my VR voxel builder game. What is that one called? Architect. Because I'm pretty sure this one works with OpenXR and WebXR. Or maybe I never did the WebXR? Jeez, it's hard to remember. Hard to remember all the things I do. But there's some differences during initialization that you have to worry about. Because like in OpenXR, you can like just say initialize and it does it right then. Whereas WebXR, everything's asynchronous. So you have to say initialize and then you wait for a signal to come back and then you can actually start initializing things. So all those little differences you have to account for. But it is 100% possible to code your game so that it can work on multiple XR interfaces. I hope that was helpful. Okay, cool. So you're using the stuff that I had up there. Yeah, I mean, it would be great to make it even easier, but I'm not sure what we can do, honestly. I think in Godot 4, like it becomes a little bit better, but also becomes a little bit worse. So it becomes a little bit better in the sense that we can set more things to make them appear to be closer together. Like I can name the button names the same as they're named in OpenXR because we're using strings. Or when things are different, like, okay, that's not a magic number, that's again a string. But then OpenXR has this whole like action map system, which is specific to OpenXR, and we don't have in WebXR. So I don't know. It's tricky. I think maybe what we'll need to do is make like something outside of core Godot, like not part of the engine, that could help paper over some of these differences, like an add-on in GDScript. Could we do it in the engine? I mean, other than just like taking some of these OpenXR specific things and then porting them to be generic rather than OpenXR specific, but then how do you deal with them when you are working with like... It's a tough problem. We should chat about this on Discord some more after the stream, because it's a tough problem. It's like... It is a little bit easier in the sense that most of the different platform SDKs are going away. Like we won't have to deal with like a Vive SDK and 2 Oculus SDKs and Steam VR. Like we're going to be able to just deal with OpenXR and WebXR, and that's all there's going to be. So it's easier in that way. And maybe we can find some way to make this a little bit easier. Yeah, yeah, like maybe if we can just come up with like a template and you know, put it up on GitLab or GitHub or something and say like, hey, this is a good way to do both OpenXR and WebXR at the same time. We should do that. Let's come over to Discord. We'll talk about it later. So what was I working on, guys? Oh, I was trying to get screen copy working and it wasn't working. Okay, so let me show you this crash on my phone. So when it loads up, I'm going to show you entering AR. It takes a couple of seconds for the phone to gain tracking because, you know, it's doing whatever image AI to try and figure out where it's located. And then the 3D will appear. And then I'm going to cover the camera so that it loses tracking. And then I'm going to uncover the camera again. And when it regains tracking is when the crash happens. So let's go webcam only to make this a little bit bigger. Here's the scene not in XR mode. I hit the wrong button. These buttons are too tiny. Okay. And then there's no tracking yet. Or at least maybe there is, but there's no cube here. Where's my cube? Okay, here's my cube. My cube is over by the door. Oh, geez, this is hard. Okay, there's the cube. There's the cube over by my door. And then I'm going to cover the camera. It loses tracking. The cube disappears. When it regains tracking, you can see there's this weird text on the bottom. I have no idea what it says. It's upside down, and it looks like gibberish. But then everything is totally broken. So if we go look in, of course, I didn't start up the inspector here. Okay, well, I'll do it without trying to show you what's happening on the screen so we can just see it over here in the debugger. There's errors about trying to use a deleted texture. And I'll lose tracking, regain tracking. There we go. Oh, and this is weird too. This shouldn't work. For privacy reasons, it's not supposed to be able to show you in the debugger what it's seeing in XR mode. Isn't that weird? So like causing this bug is making something that shouldn't happen for like privacy protections in the browser happen. But these are the core errors here. Invalid operation, bind texture, attempt to use a deleted object. So I'm not entirely sure what's happening, but it's something around the textures that we're returning to Godot to render stuff. So let's go look at the code for that. That is over in WebXR interface JS CPP. Okay, so we have get color texture. And this is relatively simple. So this goes to JavaScript to grab our texture. Oh, and there's some weird stuff. I'll do the easy stuff first and then the weird stuff. To get us a texture ID, If it's 0, okay, no resource. Then we go to get texture, which has like a little cache. So it'll say if we already have a resource created, an RID created for this particular texture ID, the texture ID is the OpenGL like ID that you would get like same as if you were creating a texture just like manually, not using Godot stuff. And if we have something, we return it. Then we get texture storage. We create a new texture resource, a Godot texture resource for this OpenGL texture. We add it to our cache, and then we return it. So this is all pretty straightforward. The weird stuff is over... get color, texture. The weird stuff is over here. So this is insane. By the way, so I'll show you guys in the spec where it attempts to define this. They've created this concept of opaque textures, which are not opaque in the sense of, or is it called opaque? It's something. Let's find it. This isn't it. Where's the spec? WebXR layers. Maybe the polyfill will give us a link. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure I have it in my notes too. Layers API. This is it. Okay, here we go. Here's the actual spec. Let's search for opaque. Yeah, okay. So an opaque texture, it doesn't mean opaque in the sense of transparent, like see-through versus not see-through. It means this insane concept where every single frame, you ask WebXR, hey, what is my color texture? And it gives you an object, because in WebGL, you don't get IDs like you do in C++. You get an actual object. And then you take that texture, you bind it to your frame buffer, and then you draw it to your frame buffer. However, the spec allows you to have an opaque texture, which means that it will return the same texture object every single frame, even though internally it's a different texture. So I'll try and draw a picture of this because it is just so totally insane. So in WebXR, you're given a texture object. We'll draw that like a little box. Oh, come on. Why isn't this working? Huh. My drawing tablet doesn't want to work. Turn it off, turn it on again. What is going on here? All right, I'll draw a picture of the mouse. So okay, we'll draw a little box, be our texture object. The WebGL API is actually wrapping OpenGL. So inside, there is actually an ID somewhere. Let's say the texture ID for this is 27. Now, every single frame, it's going to keep giving me back the same box, the same texture object. But every frame, it's actually going to refer to a different underlying texture. So last frame, it was 27. This frame, it's going to be 28. But from my perspective, in WebGL, in JavaScript, it's the exact same object. And then, since we're actually doing this code from C++, Emscripten does this mapping from the objects to new IDs. They aren't the same as the internal IDs. We don't have access to the internal IDs, but Emscripten just makes up its own IDs. So let's say the Emscripten ID for this is, I don't know, 11. And that means we're going to be getting a texture ID of 11 over and over and over and over again, even though down at the like lowest, not the lowest level, but the OpenGL that's actually like running, not the OpenGL up here in C++ land in Godot, because that's compiled to WebAssembly, which is doing its thing with Emscripten and it's mapping to these JavaScript WebGL objects. But like underneath, it's a different texture every time, but it's going to look like the same to us. Anyway, I hope that made any sense, but it is so weird. I have no idea why they decided to do this way. And then like here, in the spec, it says an opaque texture functions identically to a standard WebGL texture with the following changes. An opaque texture is considered to be invalid outside of a request animation frame callback. Okay, that's a little bit weird, but it's fine. It is invalid until it is returned from a get subimage or get view subimage call. So this is the call where we say, WebXR, give us the texture that you want us to render to. So even if you already have the texture object, it is not valid until you, again, call this method, even if it gives you back the same texture object, because it's doing the thing like I was showing before, where it's actually replacing internally what that texture means. Yeah, so I think that covers basically the most of the insanity here. And yeah, so we have to do this craziness in pre-draw viewport, which is just a method that gets called right before we draw the viewport, before the rasterizer, the OpenGL renderer draws the viewport. And we have to say, if the texture we had last frame is identical to the texture that we have this frame for color and for depth, well, we need to go out of our way to rebind those exact same textures to the exact same frame buffer, which normally would make no sense, right? Because like we're already bound to it. But we have to do it again. Anyway, hopefully that made some kind of sense. What I think we need to do is, I think something is happening where we're losing tracking and then we're regaining tracking, and then now we still have an old like texture object laying around, which is now invalid, but we're trying to reuse it. Probably because of this code. Probably because we're doing this extra weirdness. So how can we avoid the weirdness? I guess we need to first figure out where this old, no longer valid texture is coming from. Let me look at our caching function. That was this get texture. So we're getting a texture ID back from JavaScript land. This is the made up one by mscriptin. It's possibly the same ID as previously, so we'd find it in our cache. What if what we need to do, and I don't know if this is right at all, but what we need to do is clear the cache every time we lose tracking, which we should be able to detect. We should be able to detect that by this function here. Godot WebXR get color texture. If it returns 0, if it returns 0, that means we have lost tracking. And get color texture. Let's try clearing our cache, because what if this old texture object that we don't need, that we want to get rid of, is in the cache? So let's try that. What is the name of the cache? Texture cache. Clear. I'm not super confident that this is going to work. It might, but I'm not super confident. I don't really have like a full understanding of the problem. So we'll try this. When it doesn't work, what we're going to do is probably add a whole bunch of print statements back to our print-based debugging that we were talking about earlier. And see if that helps us understand exactly what is happening a little bit better. I'm also a little bit curious too. So we have, let's go take a peek at this code. Okay, this is actually done, so I guess we can test it. But while I'm waiting for that to export, let's take a peek in here. In our pre-draw viewport. Null if get render target. Oh, that shouldn't happen. If it is overridden and these values equal each other, then we rebind them. Yeah, that didn't give me any extra insight. Let's just try running this and see what happens. Go over to our dev tools. I will refresh it. We will enter AR. We've gained tracking. We've lost tracking. We've regained tracking. We're still getting it. We're still getting it. Bind texture. Attempt to use a deleted object. Okay. Jail clear. Jail frame buffer texture 2D. So that's just attaching texture. I wonder if this is different than what I'm thinking it is. What if the problem isn't... What if the problem isn't these opaque textures, but like something weird is happening when we're switching back and forth that we're ending up with like normal textures? And the problem is actually with like not textures from WebXR, but textures that the OpenGL renderer is making. And then in the process of switching from them back to WebXR, something weird is happening. Well, let's do what I said we were going to do, and let's put in some print statements. So, what we need to know is every time we are getting the color texture, we'll get rid of this because that didn't work. I want to know what the texture ID is that we're getting. So let's say printf color texture ID and texture ID, and I want to know the RID of the texture that we get back. So get color texture. So let's say printf color texture RID. It'll be color texture get ID. And actually, yeah, let's check, of course, if it's valid. So color texture RID is valid. Color texture is valid. Let's see if this gets us any more insight into what's going on. I hope I didn't lose all of you with attempting to explain that weird opaque textures thing. It's mind-boggling. It would be... And actually, like, we were working on this last stream in that the fact that we were trying to do this smart caching was actually breaking things because the cache was assuming a texture with the same ID is the same texture. And if you guys remember, for those who were there, I started making all this crazy logic in the texture storage for how it does its caching, and ultimately I came up with this as being better, and the I didn't have to change at all the caching in texture storage for render target FBOs. So hang on, I'm going to recompile this because this was the wrong specifier. It's a 64-bit long, unsigned long, and %d does not do that. So we'll just recompile it really quick. What did I do? Oh, I changed the wrong one. Gah. Okay, here D is fine. And here we need the LLU. Yeah, I'm really excited for when we can finally have this be fully working and I can move on to, well, so the fact that we're rendering directly to the device targets is already like an interesting, cool improvement in Godot 4. But I would like, and this is much for Sergio's benefit if you're still here. I would like to add hit testing for AR, and I would like to add anchors for AR. Then we could say that WebXR, AR and WebXR is actually useful. And a big part of why I want to do that is the Quest 2 and Quest Pro, I got one right here, we'll do AR mode now as well with WebXR. So it just sounds like a really fun area to play around with. I have my my office mapped out on my Quest, so like my desk and like my keyboard and my filing cabinet and stuff are all in there, and I can like bounce little balls or whatever off of them. It'd be fun to play around with some stuff like that. Okay, cool. So we have tracking. We're getting texture ID 46, actual underlying texture ID. Why is this printing twice? Oh yeah, because we're grabbing it in two places. We're grabbing it in the pre-render. Wait, why is this RID constantly changing? Is value? I meant to type is valid, but this shouldn't be changing. What did I do wrong here? Oh. Did I print a bool as if it was an integer? That should normally be fine unless it thinks that unless a bool is smaller than an integer. And then part of what we're printing is just random memory. Is value is valid. So what is the printf thing for a bool? Printf bool. Capital B? Oh no, it says here someone's doing D and it works fine. There's no specifier for bool types. Since an integral type shorter than an int is promoted to an int when passed to printf as variadic, so you can use. I don't know why. I don't know why is valid is printing out just random junk. Okay, well, it lost tracking because I put my phone down, and it'll regain tracking because I'm picking it up. Ooh, now stop doing things. Stop. I need to see the statements right where this changed. So it's still 0. Okay, so here we had values, then it went to 0. Okay, let's do this again. I'll try to keep better track of. What I want to see is exactly what's printed out when it switches from working to not working. From when it goes from tracking off to tracking back on again. Okay. So, lose tracking. Regain tracking. Scroll up. Okay, so we're getting texture ID 1150, texture RID 84. Is that the same as what it was earlier? Yeah. So we're getting the same object again, even though it shouldn't be the same object, because it's now deleted. And then, for some reason, after that happens, we go to 0, which is just weird. Or is that because I put the phone back down? Okay, let's try this one more time and see what happens at the end. So we start out working, lose tracking, regain tracking, and we only have the value for a second, and then it goes all zeros. So that's interesting. All right, I have to take a very short break to run to the bathroom. I'll be back in 1 minute, and then we'll dig back into this. Give me a second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so the thought I had is we actually have another cache. We have 3 levels of cache here. We have a cache that happens in texture storage, which is caching like every time we override a render target with like a color texture and depth texture, it caches the FBO. But I don't think that's what's going on. We have the cache that we just were messing with, the one inside of WebXR interface.js, and then we have another cache which is on the JavaScript side. And I'm wondering if that cache is causing a problem. So let's check that out next. So where is it? I think it's the... I thought there was a cache. Hang on. Yeah. Get texture ID. Where's our get color texture? We call get subimage, and then we call get texture ID. So maybe there isn't. Maybe there isn't a cache. I thought there was. Okay, so we're calling get subimage. Where's get subimage? Get subimage. Okay, we have to have a pose. We have to have a layer. Subimage. This gives us the object. Okay, so there isn't a cache? I really thought there was. Okay. That idea went nowhere. Get layer. I wonder if... I don't think the layer would become invalid when we lose tracking. Saying get view subimage. It is turning this. I have another thought. Okay, so we have this method here where we're taking the texture object and we're doing some magic to register with mscripten so it gets an ID. If we already have this set, we just return it. What if we also, for some reason, need to like just reset the object? It's the same object. It shouldn't need to be reset. But these opaque texture things are so weird that what if we just need to reset it? I don't know. I don't know if this is a thing. Let's give it a try anyway, though. So we already know what it's at. Oh, and this is wrong. This needs to be texture.name equals texture. Yeah, okay. So what we're seeing, I don't know why my oh. Okay, hang on. I think I know what's going on with my drawing pad. Hey, okay. Let's make a new thing. So we have tracking. We're getting a texture. We clear the textures on the render target. Are we continuing to render? We continue to render. Or we haven't cleared them yet. Hang on. Okay, so this built, let's actually test my change. So if we look at WebXR interface.js, we have pre-draw viewport. We get the color texture. At some point, this is going to change to 0. And then we're going to say, is overridden. It is overridden. But these don't match because they're now 0, so we don't do this thing. Then later in the viewport rendering process, we get to get color texture. We turn up here. We grab the color texture. It's 0. So we return empty RID, which will then get passed to the texture storage in GLES. Where's texture storage for GLES? Here's the H file. I guess we'll go from the H file to the CPP file. We get to set override. I always set the velocity texture. If these are the same, we return. They're not going to be the same. If color texture is null and depth texture is null, which they should both be, I think. We should verify that. It will clear the render target. Set this stuff. What just happened there? Okay, I must have undid what I did, and we're all good. Okay. Hang on. So we've get back to where I want to be here. We are at set override. We clear the render target, clear rendering target, FBO cache, and return. So there will be a moment where the render target size is just nothing. And we shouldn't try to render to that. We shouldn't. We've cleared the render target. So FBO is 0, color is 0, depth is 0. Okay, so we'll test the thing. We'll test the thing that I tried in the code before. But after that, I want to try over here in pre-draw viewport. If get color texture is 0, maybe we should be returning false here and saying don't render, because this goes back to render viewport, and so for pre-draw viewport. Yeah, the viewport won't be drawn at all if this returns false. So we check pre-draw, then we set these overrides, then we draw, but if these just cleared everything out, and we do a thing where we update the render target size. Where is that? Render target size. Where does this happen? I think this happens earlier, though. So we start draw viewports. If XR is enabled, we set the viewport size. And then here's where the pre-draw viewport happens. So we would have resized it to a size, which would have no effect because we've overridden it. Now we do render target set override, which will wipe everything out if these are all zeros. Then we go to draw viewport, which should have some trouble. It should have some trouble. Let's go to draw viewport. What does it do if the render target is just like totally invalid? Hang on, I am lost now. That was pre-draw, draw viewport. Let's go here. Render a viewport. Let's look for bind frame or GL bind frame buffer. Is there not a GL bind frame buffer in here? Well, no, because this would call then into either rasterizer canvas or rasterizer scene, and that's where the frame buffer would be bound. Will this try to just render to? Will this just try to render to a render target with no size? And it sets the FBO to 0, which is actually valid. FBO 0 means render to the screen, render to the primary frame buffer. Ali Hassan, what is your name? My name is David. Very nice to meet you. Thanks for coming to the stream. So in normal VR, we gain tracking, we never lose tracking. We never do this thing where we're completely wiping out the render target and then having to resurrect it later. And actually, this would just be a 0 render target for one frame, right? Because the next time we come back around, we will hit this coda up at the top. Then we'll do viewport set size. But actually, Get render target size. What will get render target size do when there's no tracking? Let's go look at that. WebXR interface JS CPP. Get render target size. Yep. It'll just return what we have cached. Okay, so that will lead... Yeah, this is just weird. Okay, maybe this is a red herring. Maybe this doesn't have anything to do with our problem. Just trying to think through what's actually happening to this render target. Ali-Hassan doesn't know English. Unfortunately, I don't speak very many other languages, and I'm going to presume that one of the languages you speak isn't Polish. Unfortunately, I only speak English and Polish, a tiny bit of Russian. It'd be cool to have like real-time subtitles. Hey, Zero G Scott, welcome to the stream. Learn how to use Git using your YouTube videos. Just want to say thanks. Thank you for coming to say thanks. It is so great always to hear when people find that stuff useful. Yeah, it's really motivating for me. So thanks for coming to say so. Okay, so I just exported this, and I'm going to try it. We made a change. We made a change a while ago, and then I got stuck on a tangent thinking through some other things. Is English easy? I mean, as easy as any language, I mean, I guess, which is to say probably not easy. Languages are a challenging but rewarding thing to learn, in my experience. Oh, interesting, too. Now this is valid is finally returning a value that, like, makes sense. That's weird. Okay, let's lose tracking. Regain tracking. So the thing we tried didn't work. Let's look at this. We have all zeros. Suddenly we get a texture ID, which is the same texture ID as we had before. It's the bind texture, so it's the texture that is a deleted object that isn't the object we want. The interesting thing, too, is, like, why have we gone into a state now? Maybe what we need is information about this render target. Maybe we need to print out so that'll be in texture storage. Or no, maybe not texture storage because there's too many methods. Let's just find a good place to like grab the dimensions. So, okay. So we get so many errors, and then we don't get any more errors, and we just go back to these zeros. Why is this returning zeros from here on out? Because it isn't entirely clear that Godot has crashed. I was not expecting this problem to be this hard, to be honest. I was expecting this to be something where we would just be like, oh, we need to clear a thing. Luciano has to go. See you on Discord. I mean, I'm around like U.S. times during the day. I'm not on a lot in the evenings. I'm with my family. But just come say what up. We'll catch each other one way or another. Thanks for coming, by the way. Zero G Scott says, I'm working on a solo game in Godot 3.5, so kind of opposite of what you're doing. Brave man, working with what you're working on. You have my respect. Thank you. Yeah, every time I get into the renderer, I end up regretting that I'm in the renderer. Rendering is not something I'm an expert in. I can kind of fake my way through it a little bit. And that's about it. Okay, so order of operations wise, we get texture ID, get RID, it's valid, we get the RID, and then the second time we get the texture ID again. That's like the real time. I wonder, so okay, this ID is the same. The object seems like it's the same. Or no, I want to be in library. So get texture. The object seems to be the same because we still have the name property set, which we sent here. Do we ever dispose of this texture? Should we be disposing of this texture? So we probably should be disposing of this texture. Okay, so what if we add color texture, depth texture, and okay, so we say get subimage, we get a texture object. This is texture. Actually, we can make this const. And let's say if texture does not equal Godot WebXR color, or this won't help me because this is it doesn't know which texture we're grabbing here. I don't know. I don't know if what the thing I'm thinking even makes sense. I mean, Is that the same RID as before? I know it's the same texture ID. So starting with 77, ending with 3326. Starting with 77, ending with 326. It's the same texture, so that means our one kind of cache is working. It's the same ID associated with it. What could cause us to not rebind this texture? Oh, hang on. Okay, so thinking about the flow here. Okay, so thinking not about where we're going from having an overridden texture to having okay, thinking about going from where we have no texture, so it's not overridden, to suddenly being overridden again. We hit this method, right? And this stuff isn't going to run because we're not currently overridden, right? So this code isn't going to happen. But then the next code, the next thing will be the get color texture. And this will finally return a real RID, which will be the same as the old one. And then we land in texture storage set overridden or set override, where these will be different, right? These will change, so we're not going to return. They're not going to be null, so we're not going to run this. We are not overridden, so this will clear the render target again. Then we're going to set these. We're going to say we're overridden. We're going to do this cache stuff. Okay, let's add another print statement here. We'll say printf grabbed FBO from cache. I think that's enough to know. Grab the FBO from cache. And then we do update render target, which we're getting over to here. I think this is one of our errors, is this line. See, we have frame buffer texture 2D, which is here, passing in this color texture, which is saying it's deleted. It's not a valid color texture. Yeah, it doesn't seem like we're getting the FBO from the cache. Okay, so that little brainstorm that I had, I don't think it goes anywhere. Oh, interesting. So a bunch of this isn't in Godot. This is in the polyfill. This isn't in Godot at all. The textures too. Okay, let's scrutinize this a little bit more here. I was assuming this was all in Godot. What if this isn't a bug in Godot at all, but a bug in the polyfill? Frame buffer incomplete. So we're alternating between a couple of different lines here. Texture type equals texture type, texture arrays, otherwise. So why is the polyfill even doing anything right now? What is it doing? I guess presumably, my phone doesn't support the WebXR layers spec. How can I verify that? I think, here, let's try this. Let me go to any old random web page on my phone. New tab. Let's go to Google. And we'll go to the console, or not in here. We need to point this at the right tab. So Google. And let's look at XR projection layer. No, XR session. Okay, so my phone supports WebXR, but not the WebXR layers spec. And that means the polyfill is emulating the WebXR layer spec, and I bet the polyfill isn't written to deal well with losing tracking. So perhaps Godot's doing everything right. What if our code's working perfectly? Let's go see what this code is doing. So render session gets a base layer, gets a viewport, texture type, layer color textures 0. So somehow these color textures have become invalid. I have the polyfill in my project because I had to make another change to fix a totally different bug in it. So let's go to oh, not here. It is in build web polyfill. So in here, let's say find, look for color textures. What I'm wondering is there a point where it cleans up the color textures? Perhaps in response to losing tracking, but doesn't recreate them later. I don't want this part. Let's look for GL delete. No color textures, or maybe just GL delete without else. No, because it is delete texture, right? That is the, or not GL delete because this is WebGL, so it would be delete texture like that. There we go. Delete texture, render target. It's the only time it's deleting textures is in this one weird, obscure little place. Color textures. Or, okay, so what if it didn't delete the texture, but it like emptied it out, so it's like actually null? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back to injecting some print statements. Oh, we have like 2 minutes left. Okay, we're gonna go back to injecting print statements, but we're gonna inject them into the polyfill. And that's gonna be the last thing we're doing before I gotta go. Get back to some real work. Okay, so this is just going down into mscriptin. So this would actually come, this line would come from C++ land. Okay, so we're attempting to use a deleted texture here. And then that texture is going all the way up into C++. Okay, so I guess we're gonna inject something here. So this is this layer color textures. So layer color textures. Line texture. This looks like the code. Okay. So let's do console log this layer. We're gonna look at the whole layer and see what's going on in there. And we have to rebuild the polyfill. It's like npm run something. Let's look in the package.json. Okay, just npm run build. Unless there's a debug. Looks like this is all production stuff. Okay, we'll just run build it. Oh, and I put it in a JS file. That was not the right move. Hang on. That's just gonna get overridden. Here it is. So this is the code in TypeScript. So we'll say console log this layer, and now we will build it. And I don't think I actually need to rebuild anything from the Godot end. I think I can just reload this. Enter AR. I expect we're going to get this print statement a lot, or not. We're not getting this print statement at all. Hmm. Okay, I'm just gonna look at one last thing, and then I gotta go. I gotta get back to real work. Let's look in the export presets. So we are not grabbing it from online. We're grabbing WebXR. There's polyfill.js. Oh, and it's still here? And it still has that? I'm really surprised this isn't getting picked up. Try one last reload. Yeah, if we're getting this error that's happening like right on this line of code, how are we not? Caching. I hate you, caching. Okay, open a new tab. Advanced. Console log. Okay, we'll just refresh this. Console log. There's our log statement. Or no, I need to do that on here. How am I gonna do that? Jeez. So let's go to, what is the path? WebXR dash layers polyfill build There's polyfill, not min, but just straight up. Yeah, it's clearly not here. Let's refresh the page. Find it page again. Log. Still not, or no existing projected layer. Okay, here's our print statement. Okay, let's try this again. This should, based on my experience with Chrome, there we are. Hey, there is our print statement. And let's go see what this is. What do we got here? So this is printing out our layer, color textures, name 0. That does not seem right. That does not seem right. So if we go back to a part where things are valid, so everything is valid and happy up here, and color texture still is name 0. Everything is happy. Everything is not happy. All right. Well, I've gone, 7 minutes, 8 minutes over. I gotta get going. Thanks everyone for coming. Sorry, the second half of this stream turned into a fest. I don't know what's going on. This is going to be tricky. I'm going to need to spend some time figuring this out. Hopefully, I'll be able to tell you next week. Well, actually, I'm not sure if I'll be streaming next week because it's kind of a holiday sort of time in the US. But hopefully, I'll be able to tell you sometime soon that I've worked this out. In any case, thanks for hanging out. It was super fun, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. And I will talk to you later, either here or on Discord or whatever. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.